Hello and welcome to Husky Talk, Broker Than You. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. And with me, as always, my dynamic, charismatic, enigmatic co-host, Laban Marsh himself. Laban, hello.
Good to see you, brother. Look who came to town. I miss you too, bro. It's been more days than we usually take in between.
I know.
But you with hey, and I forgot to mention the last time I had my Fu Manchu, the for the 4th of July. And dude, you're a Hulkamania fan. Like that is it's Americana because Hulk Hogan really brought that Fu Manchu. And then I thought about it. Fu Manchu is probably,
Okay. Hold on. You just muted yourself. There you go. There you go.
Yes. So with us, I know you, teammates of both of ours.
The man, the myth, the legend.
The myth, the legend, Nick the Fish Cannon. And I got to start out this story because when I tell people I'm friends with Nick Cannon, especially a few years ago, they were like, we checked into a hotel. What was that? The Michigan game. I think it was Michigan game.
Yeah.
We went to watch. And we check into the hotel, and I said to the front desk, I said, hey, my friend Nick Cannon is going to be checked. She's like, are you serious? Nick Cannon is coming? I'm like, yeah. My college roommate. Are you like? And I totally forgot about that other Nick Cannon.
Then I show up, and they're like,
wait.
That's he just killed the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's more famous than that dude, if you ask me. Nicky the Fish. That was from Guglielmo. What was your coach?
Dave the Guglielmo. I used to wear the Christian Fish, and he saw me at practice one day. He used to call me Nicky the Fish.
Nicky the Fish.
Well, you were also like a pseudo assistant when I was there with Norris, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's when you had a transition.
Yeah, because I got medical. I had too many concussions, so they kept me on as.
They made you go to meetings and everything, and you had to run drills. I remember that.
Yeah, I was there, but you know what? I got the per diem and all the gear and everything.
Yeah.
I got to travel. It was fun. Yeah, they treated me right.
Yeah, I had to wear the Hulkamania stuff after his performance last night. It was he was just on fire.
That was impressive.
I was blown away. I felt like I was 12 again.
Listening to him in the ring.
I was so excited.
So did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing, and he's still great. He's 71 years old, and there's no teleprompter. He cuts his promo, and he does it off the top of his head. And he was spot on with everything. He didn't make one mistake.
Those guys, that's what they do.
That's what they do.
The WWE is scripted pretty well. Although, I watched that TED Talk with Mr. Harvard, and listen, dude, there's times they get a little more serious. And I don't care. You're in athletics. You might be supposed to be following a script, but if you get punched in the nose, right? Like Tyson says, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. I can see how that can get more serious than script. But as far as the whole dialogue and Hulkamania is a number one as far as putting on shows. So that was impressive.
Well, yeah, now they have, like Chris Nowinski had said, every line is written for them. Like it's scripted to the T. And back when Hogan used to do it, they didn't have it scripted like that. It was just they gave him points that they had to hit, but they were on their own to get there. And last night, like when he went out there, first of all, he got the biggest response out of anyone. Like people went nuts for him. And it was in Milwaukee. I didn't know it was in Milwaukee. I was like, he doesn't Like he's from Florida. Like if it was in Florida, I would expect that. But I didn't expect it in Milwaukee. And then he hits on all the points. Like he didn't flub any lines. He hit on the points. Donald J. Trump, he talked about the borders, the economy. I mean, he did it all. I was thoroughly impressed.
Yeah.
Because they had talked about him like potentially running for Congress or Senate like 15 years ago.
Who was it? Jesse the Body.
Oh yeah,
Jesse
the Body. California before Arnie, I think. Right, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Minnesota.
Oh, was it Minnesota? Yeah,
Jesse
you're right.
Jesse the Body was the governor of Minnesota.
That's right, Minnesota. He wouldn't.
And
be
I was actually voted in my high school yearbook to be a professional wrestler and or governor of Midwestern state. That was my senior superlative award that I won.
Now, would you ever pursue? Yeah, you would do the WWE. Would you ever?
I've wrestled before.
Yeah, you did. And I know Tuck.
Oh yeah,
Tuck's in charge of that big league that you guys are helping with Tyler.
Yes. We had a great show with him. He was awesome. Now, was he there with you guys?
Yeah, remember he lived with Percy Price, so they were in McMahon North with us. They were a couple floors up. Yeah. But yeah, man, Tuck, and he was the type of guy. When I met him, I wasn't sure. Like, he doesn't look like a football player necessarily, but that dude helped run the show. You know what I mean? He was Yeah, he was awesome. And I know for Sermine, who you remember Dan, and he's been out of Air Force forever. Tuck was his right-hand man. And so, yeah, Tuck was great. He was a great connection for all the football players and getting you on board at UConn. So many great people.
Well, he explained, like he's like, if you want to talk about my athletic career, this is going to be a 2-minute conversation. He said, I'll talk about everything else, but I wasn't a great athlete, but I love sports and I have a mind for it.
Right.
And he's like super high up.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the senior vice president of global branding.
It's unreal.
Which is massive. And they just announced PFL Africa, which is
really?
Wow. Yeah, they have PFL Europe. They're doing PFL in the Middle East, and they just announced PFL Africa, which Francis Ngannou is going to be running. So, and I told him, just because I like MMA, but I've always watched UFC.
Right.
This was the first PFL show I watched. And it was incredible. There was such a distinct difference in the styles. The pacing is faster. The striking, the striking is more. There's like a sense of urgency. And I didn't know any of this, but the reason why is because of the point system.
Oh, so
it's a knockout in the first round, you get a certain amount of points. If you get a knockout in the second round. Yeah, so that's why the point system, and I like the format of the regular season, then the playoffs, then the championships. And then once you win the title, and I didn't know this either, he said, it's just like the NFL. You win the title, but, I mean, you still have to win it the next year. Like, you don't keep it and defend it.
Yeah.
It's not like UFC.
So that's where it's a different structure altogether. I didn't realize that. I thought it was just fighting at like a lower level, but you're saying it's a like same fighting. But it's almost more competitive.
I thought it was
just raw fighting and structured versus having to promote and all that stuff for the once every couple months fight.
That's I liked it because they do 3 rounds. It's all fast. And just the speed of it, because they know they got to get the points to advance to the playoffs. There's only 2 fights before the playoffs.
Really?
So the season is each fighter gets 2 fights, and then the top 4 advance to the semifinals and the finals.
Yeah, I like that because that's when you watch UFC, sometimes the guys just dance around the ring.
They stall. They fucking stall.
Yeah.
That's what drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think again, they're just trying to win that one match for their big payday or whatever. But I think that is interesting, and I'd love to know more about who structured that league for that.
Yeah,
They must have realized some of the deficiencies of the UFC to where, right, you're trying to you want to entice the viewer. You know what I mean? Not so much the fighter per se. So that's interesting. I'll have to check more out about that. But I love that you're still connecting, and you mentioned. Our other teammate, Darby, you get to talk to here a little bit later.
I got Darby. Yeah, I should have had Darby on with you guys. I tried to see if he could come out early, but he couldn't. He wants to promote his beer. The 42nd Brewery.
Tell him he needs to start shipping it. I reached out to him and he said
I told him that too. Dude, I had to go out there and buy it.
What do they need? They don't have they're not licensed outside.
Sure. They're not licensed in New York, but I think they're gonna be. But we went out to a Worcester Red Sox game.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So the guy that I co-host one of the other shows, it's called Money Line. It's just a sports talk show. He wanted to buy the beer. I think I told you about this. I wanted the doggy daycare, and he wouldn't give me the doggy daycare. And then I do the commercial for Steve Darby's beer, and he wants to buy his beer immediately. And it infuriated me because he doesn't know the guy. He's never tasted the beer, but he's going to spend thousands of dollars buying it. He won't give me my doggy daycare. So it's bullshit. I'm telling you. So we drove to Worcester. We took a weekend. It was one of the other co-hosts and I. We went to the game Friday night, and then Saturday we drove to Steve's Brewery, the 42nd Fruco. And so I didn't realize where it was. It's damn near by Cape Cod.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like an hour and it's almost an hour and a half from Worcester to get there. Okay. Yeah. So we drive there, and I called Darby right after the 4th of July. He had a huge 4th of July party because Frank, the guy who was buying his beer for the bar, they were talking about the pricing. And he wanted to double check the pricing. And Darby had said that it's $100 a case. But Darby was like, he was messed up. He was hungover. So I called Frank. I said, Frank, it's $100 a case. And he goes, $100 a case? I go, yeah, they're 24 beers. They're 16 ounces. They're $100 a case. He goes, Steve, that can't be right. It can't be $100 a case. I go, I don't know. What do you think it is? And I think he came up to like $20 a case or something, whatever. We go there, and Steve's not there, first of all. His partner's there, explains to us it's $100 a case. I opened the envelope that Frank gave me. It has $400 in it. He wanted 10 cases, and we only have enough for 4. So I'm like, dude, we're $600 short. Like, and I'm like, fuck it. I'm not paying for this. But so we ended up we ended up splitting it. I paid $300. My other friend, the other co-host, paid $300. So we got him the 10 cases and brought him back. And he was like, I can't believe that it's $100 a case. I said, I told you that, and you didn't believe me. And I just think it was because Darby always has this 4th of July bash.
Yeah.
I called him at like 9 a.m. He was so fucked up. And he's like, it's $100 a case. And I was like, whatever. I don't know. I don't know how these things work.
$100. All right. Yeah.
I don't know. So I told Frank that, and Frank argued with me. I'm like, dude, I have nothing to do with this. Call him then. And then when I opened the envelope and I saw four $100 bills, my heart just dropped, because I'm like, he wants 10 cases. Oh, I didn't drive an hour and a half to show up to get 4 cases. and I had to. I think I had to go to 2 different ATMs because the one ATM ran out of money.
Oh, dude.
My friend went first, and then I went, and then I had that they were out of money. And this is in Kingston, Massachusetts, which is I think it's the middle of nowhere. I had to drive around and find another ATM and get the other $200.
Oh, so, my.
And I think he gave us an extra case for our troubles.
So you owe Darby a C note. Wow.
So we brought all the beer back in my friend's pickup truck.
I hope your friend loved the beer though. Is it good beer?
He did. It's been selling great. Yes.
Oh, so Darby knows what he's got.
It's exceptional beer. Yes. It's exceptional beer. It's been selling great. Great reviews. We're the only place in town that has it. So it worked out. It worked out.
In other words, you got to make another trip.
Yeah. You're going to have to make another trip.
That's what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about.
That is the ultimate throwing oranges back at life right there.
That is that's throwing bowling balls back at life. That's like, how the fuck I'm going to have to go there every month now and drive there and get 10 cases of this shit. I said, get a license, please.
Yeah.
To sell in New York.
Man, well, it must be a good product if he knows what he's got.
It is. And they were all paranoid because they're like, well, we're not licensed to sell in New York. I was like, dude, people go to Canada all the time and buy beer and bring it back here. Like, who's going to stop us? Like, even if we get caught speeding, are they going to? Yeah, I mean, it's going to be super troopers. It's going to be like they're going to stop and want to look in our trunk and see that we have Massachusetts beer and indict us. I mean, like, you're worried about nothing. I'm like, I'm making you $1,000.
Yeah.
Just say thank you and fuck you, bye. That's it. That's all I wanted.
Well, make sure you tell Darby we said hello for sure. And, I was thinking about this too at one point because my wife is getting together with all the field hockey girls at the end of August.
Oh, good.
We have not done anything as a football group. And I mean, we got to do something. We're all close enough to where if we picked a spot, within 3 or 4 hours of everybody in that New England area, I would think we'd be able to get 20 to 30 guys together somewhere and rent a few homes or something. I mean, we got to get to I mean, I love the Zoom and talking to everybody, but it would be nice to be at whether families can get together or not. I know for the field hockey girls, it's just the girls that get back together, and they do it pretty regularly. I give them credit for being 20 plus years out. They've done a pretty good job of keeping it together, but I just don't want a tragedy or something like that.
No.
To get together. And for the track guys, we lost Millie, and that kind of spurred us to get back together, which was great. And that's been now 7 years. And so it gets harder and harder to keep it together. So I'll make it my mission with all of you to try to figure out something somewhere that we can get together and do it.
Well, we were talking. I talked to Schumann, Dave Schumann.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know him.
He was older than us, but I definitely know who he was. You know what I mean? He was we were coming in when he was going out. So
I did a show with him, and he really liked me, and I had him on a couple other shows.
Nice.
And then he wants to start he has a huge YouTube channel with like 700,000 freaking listeners.
Wow.
Yeah, he does a good job.
Yeah, and I did listen to one of his recent ones that I think I spun off of after I watched your podcast with him, maybe on his YouTube channel. But yeah, super knowledgeable guy. And I know when you were talking to him, it was about he was like the first one on the verge of getting high school kids into that recruiting process and everything. It's a whole new ball game. But yeah, he was at that ground floor of really exposing high school kids to college opportunities, which now, with the internet and everything else, it's made it a lot easier. But
yeah. And he wanted to do a show. It's going to be called Husky Huddle.
Oh,
he wants to cover the team.
Yeah.
He went on UConn's athletic site and just kind of looked to see what they do as far as social media and as far as coverage for each sport. And like UConn's Twitter account has like 2,000 followers.
Really?
And it's really bad. So he's like,
you got to get better.
He's like, I know the team's not going to be great. Let's just cover the team. Let's see if we can, I have 700,000 followers. We'll put over your Husky Talk stuff and we'll do a show. We'll cover UConn and we'll see if they'll work with us and maybe let us get some players to come on and just we want to help them.
Yeah, and that's where I don't know how that, like, we had Callie on who goes to UConn, and with NIL and stuff, like, but she even told me if she wanted to compete in the summer, like, she has to fill out a bunch of NCAA form. I know there's still certain restrictions. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you're trying to help these kids get the exposure they need, and yet some of them, you know what I mean, they just don't know where to turn. I know UConn's created that collective too.
Yeah, I talked to them.
Okay. So, yeah, and I mean, I'm excited for Monday. I was telling Fish, and we'll get into him here when he gets back down. But I think Monday, if we can get Chris, with that,
that's going to be awesome. Yeah.
For UConn, because, again, it just is a resource for our former teammates and athletes all together if they're having challenges with that, because – I know, I mean, bro, you've dealt with concussions. I've dealt with concussions. Nick has had concussions. I mean, we were the only two kids on the team that wore pro caps, and we were roommates. I mean, the jokes that banging heads in the room. I mean, it's just.
I had a concussion the other day. I fell flat on my head.
Man.
On the sidewalk. I smashed up my arm. Yeah, absolutely.
And then, are you okay from that? I mean, I was before, so with concussions we are more susceptible to it. And so again,
I didn't remember it.
You don't even? Do you remember falling?
No.
So, and I don't know if that's the severity of concussions, but it's like, what do you after you gain conscience, or what was your last recollection?
I was in the rocks in my front yard. So if you go out my front door, there's a sidewalk, and then to the right of the sidewalk, there's like rocks with trees and plants and everything planted there. My mom calls them like little islands. They're islands with rocks with like trees and flowers and whatever planted. So I DoorDashed Starbucks and it came to my front door, but the asshole put it kind of like out of my reach. So I had to step outside to get it. And I got my foot must have got caught in the front door, where you go from there to the sidewalk. My shoe came off. And all I remember is I woke up laying headfirst in the on the rocks.
Did you spill the Starbucks?
I didn't even get the Starbucks. I didn't get it. It was still there. It was still there.
So you went to reach for it, fell over.
I tried to step outside, and my foot must have got caught on the door. Yeah. And my shoe came off, and I fell, and I hit head first on the sidewalk. Jesus. And then rolled into the rocks.
Wow.
And it was hilarious because my mother was here the whole time on the couch.
Didn't know anything happened?
No idea. The door's wide open. I was out there for probably 5 minutes.
Well, no idea making noise though. It's not like you were screaming or anything or hollering.
No, I was out. But then as I came to, I was like, fuck. My mother, I was just swearing. And then they came out, and then like my arm was all messed up and my head was messed up. And all I remembered was I just wanted my Starbucks.
Yeah. So did you end up getting Starbucks, or was it?
No, I was so fucked up. I didn't try to drink it.
Oh.
I didn't try to drink it, and I didn't remember anything, and I didn't want to go to the hospital because I know you don't treat concussions. They don't treat them. Right. They just monitor you. So I'm like,
that's all you can do.
Yeah, I'm like, just please let me rest. Please let me rest. I'll be fine. Let me rest. And then I threw up a couple times, and then they wanted me to go to the hospital.
Yeah, see, that's where
that's when it's bad.
We go through those symptoms, and back when I first had them, you didn't necessarily know, you didn't know where you were at. But that nauseous feeling is for me the biggest indicator where it's like, and even now I get more motion sickness, I think, just having as a result of the concussions. I don't do well. I can't do anything that spins like my kids.
Oh yeah,
dude.
Oh yeah, I can't do that.
I remember I got in this thing called the spider one summer where
the worst,
dude. It was so I had to put my arm up for the dude to stop it because I mean, it's to me.
I made the mistake of going on that too.
The results of a concussion. It's terrible. So yeah, I mean, I know all of us here have dealt with those, and I told Fish how we're going to interview Nowinski and try to bring that Concussion Legacy Foundation to UConn athletes as well. So I'm excited, but
I am too.
I think that's where, and I'll never forget. It was spring ball. I was out because of I had a shoulder injury, so I had shoulder surgery during spring ball my sophomore year when I didn't get to run track. And it was the spring game. You got a concussion. And I remember walking into the locker room and I looked at Fish, and I've seen this on a couple kids where it's just that glassy-eyed gazing into nowhere.
Deer in the headlights.
Like it's that vegetative state, and it's only temporary. But if you've ever been there, it is brutal.
I'll tell you the story of my first concussion when I was 9 years old. I flipped my bike, and I was
9 years old.
I was thrown up on the way to the hospital. I didn't have one until my senior year in high school. It was the first day of our senior camp, and somebody, I don't know if they speared me, but I just saw a picture. My helmet, my face mask was off, and I had a black and blue mark all the way down the side of my face.
They speared you, your old teammate?
It must have been something like that because my face, I don't remember, but my face mask was off. But it was raining, and I just remember sitting on the bench, and it was like a Pink Floyd music video. The raindrops were thick, and I could just see my coach through the raindrops, and I just remember seeing my hand, and then I woke up in the hospital. And that's all I remember. And it was the first sports related, concussion. It was nuts.
The worst part is that like you fell, right? Scraped your arm, banged your head. When you can see the physical, atrocities, it's easier to treat them. But the challenge with the brain, and everybody's brain is different. But that's where you just don't know how bad it is. We were talking about that earlier, where I am a part of Boston University's study of encephalopathy. Yeah. I've committed to donating my brain and brain stem, and I think that's what Chris wants to begin to offer. And I even listened to his TED Talks, and having to call families of deceased former players and ask them for their brain. And I think it's become much more well known when Junior Seau shot himself in the chest to preserve his brain. I mean,
Dave Dorson.
Right. It's scary. Right. So I think you don't know. And I said, well, I know I have CT. I just don't know to what extent. Right. And,
yeah.
I kind of understand what my future might entail, but I also know that I have to do the things that we've talked about this before, whether it's the journaling, whether it's
proactive.
Like you have to be proactive about staying on top of these. But what you can't help is those physiological changes and the depressive moments where, and I told Fish, part of my broker than you is that I know there's days where I feel like I'm in a rut, and I just have to remind myself that there are people out there worse off to try to lift you up out of that, because it can get very, and again, Steve, like we had things planned that day that you tripped, and I
kept telling you, I said, I'm fine, we're good, let's go. And you're like, dude, no, you're not. Just relax.
Well, yeah, because But I think that's what happens for me, especially with the concussions, was like that paranoia. Like, am I forgetting to do something? I know I told somebody I was going to, and if I tell somebody I'm going to do it, I want to be able to do it, and I don't want to lean on, oh, I forgot I told you that.
Well, I know, but like, I definitely think you were right. Had I tried to do it the next day, I probably would have been much worse off than taking another day of rest. I hated going to the hospital and having to be there.
That's the problem with us as athletes. We think we can just handle it and get over it. And that's where, especially when you're challenging, and I think what this is creating is a network, because, I haven't thought much about you in 25 years or whatever, but since we've been together for the last month, like, I am concerned about you. I told I was praying for you, hoping everything was okay. I know you wouldn't ghost me. But it's like, those are the things we want to have, people that are looking out for us. And that's where, we talked about my car accident. I was going down to visit Fish to have lunch. We hadn't had lunch in years. And then I remember, listen, I got in that accident. I didn't call my mom or dad. I called Fish. I'm like, hey, bud, I'm not going to be able to make it to that lunch at 11:30. I just got rear-ended. Dude was going 120. And so now we rescheduled that lunch for about a month later. And then today we had lunch for the first time since a year ago.
Yeah.
I mean, we just have to stay in better communication. And if you don't, it goes 20, 25 years. And so I think that's what, again, I love about your podcast. I love that you're getting with Darby. I love that Fish is in my house. He said, last time we were down here was for a Christmas party, probably a decade ago.
Yeah,
so how far is it for you?
An hour and a half.
From Ohio.
Like 90 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
No.
That's not bad at all.
No.
Laban, everyone really loved your last show when you were talking about real estate and dealing with customers and the team effort and the people who think their house is valued at something, and you having to explain to them that it may not be what you think it is.
Yeah,
and how you have to break the news to them, and you're like a therapist.
Well, and you have to be sometimes a marriage counselor and therapist.
Yeah.
What was awesome about Fish, yes, he was my college roommate. Yes, he's a former athlete, but he's in the real estate game where on not the back end of it, but like I work with investment real estate agents. Well, a lot of investors in the last couple of years have been liquidating their properties. And anytime an investor liquidates, they worry about capital gains. And that's where Fish has the answers for that in what he does. And I know he's got to be a little bit careful with what he talks about. But, I mean, he's in not the same field I am, but he is dealing with the same type of clients. And so I want Fish to tell you more about kind of what he's doing. And he's got – I just love it because I've known him, 25 years?
97.
Yeah.
27.
27 years.
Yeah.
But it was such a blessing when we both took the same trip to UConn on our visit, because he was coached by Nick Rapone in high school. And then Rapone recruited me. He sent us both together. And so that's where I met his mom and dad. And I remember who picked us up? Kogel, or what was his name? Moose.
Yeah.
Moose.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Moose. That's
and
right.
I remember he drove us from the Hartford
Yeah.
Airport to UConn on these back. I'm like, dude, I don't know if I'm ever going home.
Yeah.
Who was he? Was he a coach?
Yeah, he was a coach.
Defensive line coach.
Yeah, defensive line coach. He was great, and he was very good for that role. But it was just one of those things where, like, I just met this dude and his parents at the airport in Pittsburgh, and now I'm somewhere in New England in the I have no idea if I'm ever coming home.
It was my first flight ever.
Oh, was it really?
That was my first flight ever. I was never on a plane.
Oh my God.
Couldn't get my ears to pop for the whole trip.
Oh, that's the worst. That's the worst. I hate flying.
Yeah.
The first game that I started in, we played at Eastern Michigan, and we were flying in, and I'll never forget this. Norris was saying, I think we're coming in a little hot, guys. And
I could see him saying that too.
He was saying, he's like, we're coming in a little hot. Yeah. And then Hessel is looking at the ground. He's like, holy shit, we're coming in hot. and we like banged and did a triple jump with the plane. The oxygen masks all fell down, luggage, all the bags fell out. It scared the fuck out of me.
Those chartered flights.
Well, the pilot didn't account for the weight in the plane, allegedly. That's what they said. And ever since then.
Yeah, but you know, at UConn, when they built the library, they didn't account for the weight of the books. You remember that story? That's a true story, dude. That is a true story. When the UConn library was built, they forgot to include the weight of the books, and so there was some engineering issues. Google that. I swear I didn't make that up. That's an bro. It's no different than your pilot forgetting the weight of the bags or anything else. Dead serious. University of Connecticut built a library and forgot to consider
a beautiful library, and they just thought the books weren't going to weigh anything, and everything was going to fit fine.
Yeah.
Why does that building look crooked?
Why does my hat look crooked?
Yeah, right. Laban, I wanted to ask you, do you meditate?
So I do Tai Chi and I pray. So yeah, I mean, depending on how you define meditation, you know, yeah, but for sure. And in Tai Chi, I love Tai Chi because you don't talk, you just move slowly, and it gives you time to think. And actually, I pursued flying a plane, and like Tai Chi, it's that like you get in a plane, you're not thinking about your next appointment. You're not like, you have to focus on what you're doing. No. And anybody who suffered concussions knows how challenging that can be to just focus for a period of time. And there's a great book, Power of an Hour, David Laconnie. And I mean, especially for young people, like we're not really good at focusing beyond an hour, 2, 3.
Not at all.
And so that's where in my business of real estate, I like that I can focus for 45 minutes to an hour, go to the next project or whatever else. But
and one of the things with on the point earlier about concussion, so it's really interesting. I don't know if you guys deal with this, but when I like forget something, I'm paranoid. Is this because of the concussions, or is it like, you know, you don't know what the residual effect, to your point about the CTE. And so like when I'm in a very cerebral industry, and you really have to understand things. And, you know, when you get into the point where you're like, okay, so I just forgot everything that I just read on that page, you know, is that because I got hit in the head 12 times with a hammer when I was playing football, or is it, you know, just something that's natural? And I think the paranoia there, I think, is the worst part for me. So with the meditating, you know, I do a lot of that too. I do a lot of the meditation and the prayer, and just trying to be mindful of things and slow things down, because, you know, when you go 100 miles an hour every single day, it's hard to kind of, you know, settle yourself and calm your mind down. And then, you know, then I get paranoid. Okay, did I just forget my wife's birthday, or like, you know, what's the deal? So and
I think that's where habitually, like anything I do, it's in my phone. And I mean, as soon as I schedule, I put it in my phone. And if it's not in my phone, I don't even worry. I mean, you get to the point systematically where I don't have to worry, because I know I'll get notified that, and that's even frustrating, where it's like, I got a day to myself. And then it's like, wait, I forgot I have an 11 o'clock. Now I got to shift that around. And I think it's that emotional intelligence and being able to control yourself. And even on days when you got to be ultra productive, you have to be able to find that, like, hey, I'm like, today's not a great day. I mean, I remember that, right, Steve? We were supposed to have a podcast after Kenzie's state meet, and I just was not in a good place with all that went down there. And like, you can't take days off necessarily, but I also know that if I'm not going to be myself, I'd rather wait until I have another 24 hours. And because, and I've told you this, I've said this, and this is how I will likely end my podcast, as you have your tagline, but it's, don't let circumstances dictate your character.
That's the greatest thing ever.
It's something my dad told us forever. And I think it's easy, and it might not be your fault that, hey, I had clients that did this and it just put me in such a bad spot. I did everything right there. And so, and being able to forgive yourself. You know, I think that's the hardest way. We are so hard on ourselves. And most people don't know the challenges. And if they've had a concussion, because even Chris Nowinski says that if you've had a concussion, you're not doomed for life. Now, some can have a concussion, it's real bad, but it's that repetitive. And since we played 30 years ago, when it was just like, you just got your bell rung, suck it up.
Yeah. The second,
like, okay. And I mean, but I still have coaches that I think would think I'm soft because of head trauma.
Always.
Even now, information, they're like, yeah, but that dude would take himself. It's like, bro.
Oh, that's the thing about the first concussion I told you about. I was back after like 4 days.
Yeah,
They brought me back.
Yeah,
after 4 days.
that's how it was. That's how it was.
Yeah.
It's not like you're just coming back. You're coming back and hitting people. And you guys as linemen, so like part of my problem was that I was fast. So when the inertia, I mean, just the physics of it. But you guys, okay, you're close, but you're still butting heads every single time on the line of scrimmage. I didn't necessarily make a tackle every play, but you guys on the line every single play.
There's a collision every play.
Yeah, and that's where, and your bigger bodies, you know what I mean? I still remember Cam Pulley would come around the edge thinking he could block me. This dude would get saucer eyeballs like he was going to actually hit me, and then I'd ole. But you know, if I ever I take hits from you guys, and it's twice as bad. And even like Nowinski talks about the sensors, right? So you got a concussion that you felt it, but there were 3 other hits that registered on the sensory that were worse than the one that you got a concussion, whether it was the angle to which your head hit, whatever else. So there's so many factors, and we've talked about this before, where I don't ever want to use it as an excuse or a scapegoat, but I also know the severity to which I've had head trauma. I'm amazed I'm able to function the way I am. You know, and I remember the first time I started talking about it, I get interviewed, and my dad's like, hey, you know, you run the company, just be careful. I don't want people to think you don't know what you're doing. So, right, there's that vulnerability. Like, yes, I have challenges, but I'm good. I just have to work on it. I have to find solutions, you know, to the challenges. But I think, and we've talked about it before, keeping myself busy is a big factor in, you know, not needing therapy as much, because keeping busy and doing the things I enjoy doing are part of that battle. I mean, if you're in a job that you don't enjoy, that's going to create more stress and anxiety. And so, again, I think I've been fortunate to be in an industry and a business that's done well, and I've enjoyed. I think, you know, for Fish, we were talking at lunch, and you found your calling, if you will, at 38, right?
38, yep.
So, I mean, everybody, I think the biggest thing with that is keep pursuing it. And every step along the way is going to help build once you get to where you're supposed to be at. It's like, yeah, but if I didn't have that experience here, and here, I wouldn't be able to appreciate or really, you know, flourish like I do now. So I think you never know where your journey is going to take you, but I think it is built in to us as athletes to find success. And I'll take different paths, and if that doesn't work, I'm going to find success eventually. And so that's where what I love about what you're doing and connecting all of us is that you get to see the success of these people and how they came to it. And because we haven't been able to stay in touch as much. But yeah, I mean, Fish for me has been a savior in many instances. And so as frustrating as it is to be as close as we are and not get together, I mean, it's opportunities like this. And like he says, nothing falls off. As soon as we get back together, it's boom, right back up, because you respect each other. You know, they're working their hardest at what they're doing, and they know you got their back at any point if they need you. So I just I love the brotherhood that we have in athletics, and you know, we've all talked about what great opportunities UConn has provided. It's just been fabulous. So I love that we're getting more connected, and as we should, with the technologies and opportunities that we have. But I think the other thing is growing each other's businesses, you know what I mean? And being able to provide. I know you with Sean Rabinowitz and things. I mean, some of the times we don't even know what people are doing. Like Fish can help clients of mine, again, who are considering selling. Hey, you got to talk to him. Just he's going to be able to set you straight, tell you what you're doing. And so, again, I think having proper advisors, and I'm a big fan of the Proverbs and seeking advisors. And so that's where you just try to build that network of people where you're confident. And we've talked about this before. When it comes to people's money, it can be weird. So building that rapport, that trust, that confidence, first and foremost, is what's vital. And anybody that, you know, would remember Fish from campus, it's like, oh, dude, integrity all the way, shooting you straight, hard worker. And again, we've talked about that how many times. Those are the people I want to hire. Former athletes that will not quit under any circumstances. And in fact, in challenging times, that's when they get even better, and you can lean on them.
So Nick, what were you saying? Like you found your calling at 38 and you're doing something a little bit different now, and you're much more fulfilled, happier, and you're doing something completely different than before.
Yeah. So I'll give you the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of a really crazy pathway to where I'm at now. So right out of college, I mean, you guys knew I was doing the Bible studies and the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Yeah. I founded that at UConn, and I spent 2 years as a youth pastor, and decided that wasn't necessarily the path that I wanted to continue on. So I went and got my MBA and got into telecom. I was in telecom for almost 20 years. And yeah, I was working for Verizon for 10 years, and it went over the world. We were doing a lot of really cool things with Verizon, but I caught the market bug. So I started getting into investing and trading and really understanding, global macro and fundamental analysis, technical analysis, and asset allocation and all this stuff. And Verizon was at the point where they were restructuring, and they basically said, move to Texas or take a severance. And I had just gotten married, just had my first daughter. And I said, write the check. And I actually had my Series 7 in 66 before I left Verizon, and got hooked up with a local guy, independent.
You got your Series 7 that fast? I heard that's one of the toughest tests around.
But I'm curious, why did you pursue that while you still, did you have a sense that it was?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's a good detail. So I knew Verizon at that point every year was restructuring people and saying, you got to move, or, this department's going to now be relocated in Alpharetta, Georgia, or whatever. And so I was working from home since 2012. And so I was home based, and then I would travel all over the country. I was in 58 cities in 1 year at one point. I was traveling like crazy. And so I knew that was coming. And so I started looking.
It wasn't going to last forever.
Yeah. And so I had gotten my real estate license, and I actually shadowed Laban's mom, come up here, and she is amazing. She is the prototypical real estate agent. She's awesome. And so I shadowed her, got my real estate license, doing that on the side. And in the midst of all that, I got exposed to trading and investing. And so, fast forward to what I was saying, I got hooked up with a local guy. My wife's uncle, who's in my office, introduced me to my registered principal. So I got my Series 7 66, and I burned the boats because I said, this resonates with me. If you see my office, I have 9 chart screens, and I do
everything up.
Yeah. So I have my 766. I'm a Series 24. Got my AIF. So I got all the credentials, but I started doing it in 2018. And again, I started from scratch. And and the backstory to this too is I've had some family members that got really taken advantage of by some financial advisors that just was out. They were out for commission, and you can churn and burn in my industry like crazy. And so if you know me, my goal is to help people. That's the bottom line.
Very sincere.
Whatever I want to do, thank you. But whatever I want to do is try to help people. And so I said, what better way than to help people with their money, help you be a better steward, help you better understand, asset allocation, risk profile, time horizon, how everything works together. And in the midst of that, because I've had my real estate license, there's a niche within because I do real retirement planning, right? So I do, you have a roll IRA, insurance, all that stuff. But within that, there's a real estate component to it, to where if you are an accredited investor and you have, investment properties, and there's a lot of scenarios, but just as an easy one, if you don't want to manage your properties for a period of time, but you don't want to pay capital gains and sell it, you can do a 1031 exchange into what's called a Delaware statutory trust. And so basically you do that transaction, you get your mailbox money, and you don't have to manage.
Oh, wow.
So there's things like that are available. I can't go too deep into it because of compliance and all that.
No, of course.
But that in essence is, there's I'm one of two people in my area that do this. And so it's a really interesting niche. I've talked to Matt Newsy. I know he's been on Yes, great guy. Talk to him about that. Engage real estate agents, CPAs, influencers with people that that have properties. And there's the baby boomers now are retiring 10,000 a day.
They are.
Folks have investment properties that they don't want anymore, but they don't want to take that big hit and they don't know what to do. And so that type of strategy is what I do. So I love the numbers. I love the trying to figure out a unique solution. And as I was telling Laban earlier, you can go online right now, hit a button and get a 70-30 portfolio and call it a day. Passive investments. So what value does a financial advisor bring? Well, knowing specific, sophisticated strategies that aren't well known. If you don't know what you don't know. And so there's different things like that. So yeah, that's what I do.
It's amazing that you picked it up very quickly, and it's a difficult industry, and there's so many nuances to it. And you worked in telecom for 20 years, and you haven't even been doing this for 10 years.
Right.
And you've already made a difference, and you're good at it, and you love it, and you're making a difference in people's lives. That's
yeah. And I've met with Fish a number of times, and today when you hear somebody talk about something they're passionate about, I just love it. And again, it was a more intimate conversation because we weren't being recorded, but still the joy. You feel that, right? When you meet with somebody, and of course, Fish comes ahead as far as the integrity and all of that. But then when you sit down and get to know, like he's got, just like I do, like, what is your situation? What are your end goals? To build that rapport, but then to know that he's knowledgeable about the products and things like that. And it's above my pay grade, but that's what you want. I want to be able to hire somebody that talks in a way that I get what you're saying, but I don't know all those details. I need to trust and have the confidence.
You want the expert. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I think that's where, and I know it's the right time for everybody, but like he's saying, and we know this, and this is my concern for the overall stock market, is that the laws have it in a way that the boomers have to take their money out so Uncle Sam can get his. And that's what he's like. We all try to avoid, whether you like it or not, paying as much tax as we have to. So there are strategies that you have to think about and be proactive with. And so that's where finding the right advisor, and even if you don't invest with them or whatever else, but you want to have the confidence in somebody that knows what they're doing and they're going to care about you. How many people, and even for us in real estate, I could earn some commissions, but I'm trying to build clients for life. I don't just want your commissions. Exactly. I want referrals and the repeat business. And I know if I treat this like a transaction, that's all it'll be. But if I treat this like a relationship. I'm trying to build your trust. And I'm sometimes, especially as the market's changed, I might disappoint you, but at least I'm going to be honest with you, and I am on your team to get you through the finish line. And that's where, it's been really good for a lot of us for a few years, and then the market's changing and it shifts.
It's always cyclical.
Yeah, and again, I can take losses on the finances, but if it's the market and not the manager, as soon as your manager is, it's like, wait a second, and like you said, sometimes you can't see it till hindsight. But if you got a manager moving money too much and they don't know what they're doing, now you look back. So you got to trust the people that you're confiding in, and especially when it's your money. You know what I mean? But if people know that you're going to treat their money the same way you treat your money, and I tell people all the time, if I can't negotiate food on your table, how am I going to negotiate food on mine?
For yourself.
Right? So I think that's where being an advisor to the general public and knowing that fiduciary responsibility to people. But just that, even without that, like, this is somebody that I would turn to for advice and I know I can rely on. And those are the types of things in business that rapport is, and we've all talked about it before. As soon as you get one client that was not treated well, it doesn't matter how many hundred rave about you, that one can turn it. So you just got to be good to people and treat them fairly. But when you meet with them and they're as passionate as Fish is about what he knows, it's easy to get behind them just because that's what they care about and they love what they're doing. So that's what I was so impressed with, because again, I've known him for 27 years, good times and bad, but to see him now flourishing, I mean, just and he's up in the fact that he came up to Erie was potential business.
Yeah, I know.
Love it. You know what I mean?
That was awesome.
So it is. It's just so exciting. And I love the chance to get with him. But when he's telling me all the success he's having, man, and that's where, like we talked about, we want to promote these people. And
Absolutely.
he needs to start a podcast. I mean, and again, everybody we should, but even if it's just so that you position yourself as the expert in, especially in that when you've got a niche, you know. So that's where it's just so fun to be with him. This has been great.
And you easily could join us anytime just from a computer. That's all it takes.
Right.
It's not hard to do. How long have you been married?
So we just had our 10th anniversary this year.
God bless you. And how many kids do you have?
So 2 beautiful young girls at 8 and 5. She'll be 5 in September. So.
Oh, God bless you there too.
Thank
Are
you.
they athletes too? They starting to play sports yet, or
you know what? I'm biased,
or...
but yeah, my oldest has uncommon balance. You know, as a lineman, you can understand that. And I see her, and like it looks like she's gonna just fall on her head and get her first concussion, and she lands on her feet. She's like a cat. It's ridiculous.
Every time.
They're both athletes. They keep me on my toes, and they're great. That's the reason why.
Yeah, the gymnastics, I can't get over the commitment that they require for. I mean, they go for hours, and then you got to go to meets all over the place. It's just wild.
Yeah, and you know what? I didn't have my first daughter until I was 37.
Yeah,
and, I tell you what, it changes you, especially when you have it a little later in life. And I tell you what, man, that's my real passion is being a dad. You know, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing like that. It's all about your kids.
Yeah,
it's all about your kids for sure.
They're going to go to UConn too.
That's
yeah.
really awesome that you're doing it.
Yeah.
I'm very happy for you.
Well, we talked about that, Steve. We need to figure out, I'd love my kids to go to UConn. I want to know more about how many, and I'm not saying statewide kids that have gone, but like the athletes at UConn who have had kids that played at UConn and stuff. And again, that'll be fun to see as we go forward in hindsight as these kids grow older. But man, they grow up too quick.
Yeah.
And that's where, like I said, we got to get everybody together with their families and kids because right now, Champ Long, we played with Rob Long in college, and his son is doing his thing in Maryland.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I've been watching him since high school.
That's awesome, yeah.
I know you that's what I love about Facebook and everything. You get to follow our teammates' kids. And I told my son, because he's playing that new NCAA football game, I'm like, dude, pick up Aaron 14. You can play with Rob Long's son, Champ. I mean, that sort of stuff is so cool. And again, as the years go, you're going to see more of it happening. Diggy, his kids are unbelievable. I mean, there's so many UConn alumni. And I think that's where the more we can stay connected, the more you can lean on them in business. I know great interview with Tabor Small. He's doing awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, I love how you're, promoting and exposing all of us to these, the networking opportunities and stuff that I feel like we should have been tapping into a long time ago.
That's what I was told. Yeah. Phil Hunt always keeps in touch with me and thanks me for doing this. And like I said, he wants to do a Husky talk at a game and bring all the alums in and be able to address them. And he wants to throw his weight around and make some changes there.
Yeah. And now he's got that weight. And
he does. And I feel. I told
president one day. I have a feeling he'll be a president. Yeah, before too long. But I mean, it's guys like that, and he was my big brother coming in. That was just we've been so fortunate, And again, you look at the program, the school, but at the end of the day, we all talk about the people. What I mean? Whether it was the coaches, the administrators, and UConn's a beautiful place, but it's the people that make it. I mean, and that's where I'm thrilled, and I love the idea of, again, kind of rebuilding these relationships, as you will. And what I love is that we didn't lose anything necessarily outside of time. You know what I mean?
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right about that.
Make sure we keep that up because we don't have eternity. we will have eternity together someday. But here on earth, I mean, we got to maximize the opportunities to be with each other and to support each other's business, whether you can directly through, buying into it or just promoting it, especially when you know they're good people that care first and foremost about others. So.
And that was very well said. And
you got to get to Darby.
I do.
Again,
it was a fast hour. It was a perfect show. Didn't drag at all. We didn't miss a beat. So
Fish, can we how can they, you have a website or something? Cully will
I'll put it in the notes for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So website is AmericanPortfoliosOhio.com. You can reach me at ncannon@AmericanPortfolios.com. My direct phone number 330-614-7414.
Love it.
I got Twitter. You can find me on Facebook.
Are you on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, yeah. Big
Cully,
time.
man,
Yeah.
I love what you're doing on LinkedIn, bro.
Big
I mean, I've been in business for 20 years and never really used LinkedIn like I should. And so I love how you're really getting there. I know that was one of the things Meg really looked forward to, was you helping him out with that too.
Yeah, tell her I put her ad together, and it's really not that expensive to do a state or two. And if she wants to do it, I've been more than happy to put it on for her.
Yeah, that'd be great. She's.
And I really thought I was going to get you to come to camp. By the way, I thought I could have got you to do it.
Listen, I will be up there.
I know you will.
She's in Puerto Rico with the girls, and I want to bring them all up. And then we have our last Saturday track meet. And I was still thinking about driving up Saturday, but I didn't know. Are you going up or no?
No, I'm probably not going up.
Okay.
I'm not going to go today. No, but I'll. You mentioned, I think, the 27th or whatever.
Next weekend we have some time I got to see, and then I was trying to figure out if she could coordinate because they're going to, I think, Massachusetts for that girls' weekend.
Oh,
but I think at the end of
that's perfect.
Labor Day this year. I don't know when Labor Day is. It's usually
that's perfect. You can come for that too.
But we will. I'll get up there, dude, because I want to see you, give you a big hug.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Too long. I love meeting you here on the computer, but yeah, there's nothing like being together and getting to
be on the lake. We'll go fishing. We'll drink a few beers. We'll have some fun. I can't wait. I thought I could have got you. If I pushed a little harder, I think you would have gotten in the car.
Listen,
I didn't do it.
I know, and I wanted to. I really did. I wanted to get up there because I need a break. You know, that's
I know.
The wife's in Puerto Rico with the girls, and they're having fun. I'm here with the boys, and we're doing some summer training in the pole vault, so it's all good. But no, I got to get up there, brother. I do, but I would love to gather a few guys. I actually was tempted to call him and Campoli and see if we could all. I mean, everybody has family and stuff, but that's my point. If you don't set something up,
you can do it. Yeah.
Now we'll say it again. So we'll get it.
If you talk to Campy and talk to him, and they want to do something next week, I'll do it anytime.
All right.
I got everything open. I'm scheduling next week, so absolutely.
All right. Awesome.
We'd love to do it. And you're welcome on here anytime. We'd love to have you.
Thanks.
We need more for sure. For sure.
So I will say, Broker Than You, Husky Talk with Laban Marsh and Nicky the Fish Cannon. Did a great job. Thank you.
Thanks,
Remember,
brother.
I am the best podcast host in the universe. We are sponsored by Procyon Partners, a boutique firm that provides consulting to businesses and executives all over the country. And they're also ranked in the top 50 in the United States of the fastest growing financial services firms. That's Procyon Partners, President Sean Rabinowitz, a proud sponsor of Husky Talk. And thank you so much. And I am the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges and throw them back at life.